Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Teotihuacan, the City of Gods. This is published by Board and Dice Games. It's a 1 to 4 player game that takes about 120 minutes to play. In this game, you're going to be using your workers, and you're going to be trying to use them as effectively as possible to gain the most points for building the pyramid. So we're going to go down to the table here, and I'm going to give you just an overview of how the game plays. We're not going to really do rules or anything like that, just an overview of how the game plays so you get an idea of what you're going to get with the game. So let's go down the table here, and when we're done, we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so this is what a setup of Teotihuacan might look like. This is going to be for a 4-player game, and it is to note that if you play with lesser player counts, you're going to need to put out some dice here based on flipping out tiles to play like the dummy, to have like the dummy player out there. Also, resources are different by player count, and you'll have to look at the rule book here and it'll show you the starting resources for each of the players. Also, the book's going to show like starting locations for each of the dice. You're going to have 3 dice out, and you're going to have your 4th dice in here. Throughout the game, you have different opportunities to unlock that dice, generally through ascension. And if you don't, so you get your 4th dice the first time you ascend your die, and that's basically leveling up your die till it gets to 6. As soon as it gets to 6, you're going to look at this middle area and get a reward. We'll go over that in a second. Also, as of note, that you can randomize the board. There's going to be tiles that are going to cover over a lot of these places to make them different. And starting with these guys, so they'll be randomly placed out instead of being the locations they're at. And there's going to be like different locked areas they can use for here that you're going to shuffle up, and different advancement tiles. But for first couple games, you're going to want to use what's printed on the board and just go with that until you get comfortable with the game. Now, there's a lot of tutorial videos on the internet for this game, and they're really good, but I'm just going to give you a general idea of how the game plays, not the rules itself. So there's just a quick overview. What you're going to do throughout the game is you're going to try to keep going until the 3rd eclipse, and at the end of the 3rd eclipse the game will end, and or if the temple gets completed. On your turn, you're going to only do one of 2 things. You're either going to move one of your dice and perform an action, or unlock all of your dice if they're all locked. At any time, though, you can spend 3 cocoa to unlock your dice. But if you choose not to do that and all your dice are locked, you will have to spend your turn unlocking your dice. So what that's going to mean is you can move up to 3 spots with any one of your dice, and you're going to go to the different locations. And the different locations are going to have different things triggered. When you go to a location, you can either get cocoa, lock a die, or do the main thing. If we look at one of the simpler areas, like over here, what's going to happen is I'll zoom in here. Okay, so we're going to go over what happens in a location when you move to it. Now, you can move up to 3 spaces when you move, and when you move, you can pick 1 of 3 different things you can do at a location. One is you can gain cocoa. So if I move my little, it's going to be a 1 die here. Here, I'm going to take a cocoa for each of the different colors at the location, not including the die that I just moved. So I would get 4 cocoa plus 1. So I would get 5 cocoa for that. If there was this here and I came in, I would get 3 cocoa plus 1, so 4. The other 2 things you can do at these locations is you can lock your tile. And remember, if you, on your turn, if all the tiles are locked, the only thing you can do is unlock your tiles. And at any point, you can pay 3 cocoa to unlock the tile, so you can still take your turn. If you can't pay the 3 cocoa or unwilling to, you just spend your turn unlocking the tiles. When I lock a tile, I can do one or the other things, and these all have different stuff. But and it's in the rulebook, explains each one. But this one here specifically will put me up the red temple track. A lot of them are temple track related. Or I can get one of the discovery tiles. If I get the discovery tile, I have to pay the cost in the upper left-hand corner. And a lot of them give me benefits that I can use once throughout the game. If it's a mask, that is end game scoring for each of the different mask sets you get, the more points you get. If you pay the cocoa in the middle here, you can do both, which is really nice. The third thing you can do is you can do the main action on the temple board, or the little section itself. The way these work is this is how many dice you have at the location. So if I had this other die here, I'd have 2 dice. So I could go in this column. If I had 3, I could go in this column. And you're going to take the column and then the lowest numbered die here. So I have a 1. And that is going to, well, you can take the row and then this is the column. And that's the reward I get. So if I had 2 dice here and my lowest was a 1, I would get 1 wood. The other additional benefit is whenever you see the symbol right here, that means one of your dice will level up. So I will put this to a 2. So that is basically how these are going to work, and there's 2 other identical locations to this. There's going to be one that does gold and one that does stone. They work exactly the same. And in general, that's the idea for the other ones, but these are just like resource grabbing ones. I can take you back up to the main board here, but we can show you other ones here as we go through. All right, so back up to the main board here. So back up to the main board. These are the temple tracks I was talking about. With these temple tracks, we're going to zoom in a little bit on those. So with the temple tracks, you're going to do those different actions where you can move them up on a track, and they're going to keep going up here. And these are all going to get different resources. Like here will give us stone, this will give you points, and this will give you cocoa. When you get to this level, you'll be able to pick any one of these rewards in here. Now you have to pay the cost. Whoops, you have to pay the cost in the left-hand corner, and then you get the tile, or you can pick the bottom benefit, which is just 1 stone. If you look on each of these little sections here, they actually tell you how many tiles you place out before the start of the game. Now another quick note is you can move all the way up here. This part here is going to be basically the penultimate point. Everyone can make it to that, and they get that benefit, but only one person can make it to the end benefit. Some of these are scoring at the end of the game. So if you make it past it, you still get the bottom benefit, but that's how these tracks work. And there's going to be multiple opportunities throughout the entire game to increase these tracks. So a couple other things with the game that you can do in locations that are cool is you can build the temple, which is a big portion of the game. So let me show you that. Okay, so if you're building the temple, basically what you're going to do is you're going to place a die in this location. When you bring a die into this location, you can build a first level, second level, the third level, or the highest level, 4th level on this pyramid. Depending on how many you bring over here. So if I had already had one here and I brought another one over, I could technically build 2 tiles. I'll only ever upgrade 1 here for these ones, but at the end one I could upgrade 2 different tiles, which is nice. If I build on the first level, it takes 2 stone per thing. If I build on the second level, it's going to take wood and 2 stone. And if I build on the third level, it's going to take 2 wood, 2 stone, and then the top level is 3 wood and 2 stone. Also, you will gain these points shown when you do that on the board. When I place a tile on here on the first level, it has to be in one of these areas that is a full square. So I could place it here, but I couldn't place it here. Same with when you're building up. And what you're going to do, I'm going to show you an example here, is you're going to look at the symbols that are underneath. And you're going to try to align this to the way you want. And every matching symbol, which doesn't matter the color, is going to give you a point. However, if you match a colored symbol like this to here, I also get to go up that temple track. So if I place that guy here, I'll get to move up on the blue temple track and get the reward there. No matter what, even if I don't get any rewards or points or anything, I didn't put the black in the disc there. You go up on the build track here. So I will go up one on this build track. All right, so there's going to be a couple other areas on the board, but one of the most important thing here I wanted to throw out is a couple different things that can happen. You have the Avenue of the Dead, which if your guys die on there, which you become ascended, you're going to move up on the Avenue of the Dead. But also at the end of each round, this marker is going to keep moving. If these markers ever touch on top of each other, then the round ends. When a round ends, it's pretty unique in this game. You're going to go, if it's the last player, everyone's going to get one more turn, including the last player. If it's not the last player, it goes to the last player, and then one more round. And then you're going to score on all these different locations. I'm not going to go over completely what the scoring is going to be on the game. You can watch a rule video for that. But everything that you advance is going to help you out in this game, just so you know. And mainly, you're going to get a lot of bulkier points too from just playing throughout the game, even before this phase. Once this happens, and this marker is going to move up, and you'll look at the instruction booklet for your player count and how much this moves up each time. Once it does it the third time, the game ends, and then final scoring, and the person with the highest points wins. But we're going to go over a couple more things. One of the things I mentioned is when you're going to level up in these areas, which I'm going to show you a couple other areas in a second. If you ever get to level 6, you ascend. You bring your die over here. You're going to pick one of these rewards. If you haven't gotten your extra worker, you can get that now. And your die is going to go back to the temple here and start as a level 1. So it starts over. And then you move up on the Avenue of the Dead, just to show you that. A couple other places that are really cool in the game is you're going to have this advancement area that I'm going to show you here in a second. All right, so these advancement tiles, when you come in here, you're going to look at this. And if you have one die, you can only do one of these top rows here, and you have to pay the cost on the top, which is generally 1 gold, and 2 gold for the bottom. If you have 2 dice, or you have a level 4 or level 5 die, you can do anything on here. You can't have advancement more than once, but you can go on an advancement with another player on there. If you go on to an advancement with another player on there, they do get a reward, so keep that in mind, all players that are on there. That's the advancement track. There's going to also be the House of the Dead track, which I'll show you here real quick. This is the House of Dread track. When you come over here, depending on how many dice are here, you can do one of these rows. If 1, 2, or 3, you will pay your 2 wood, and you'll take a house from the track, which I'll show you a second, over here, and you're going to place it here. Wherever you place this track on here, you're going to get those points. So if I had 2 dice over here, I could put it here in 5. If I had 1 die, I could put it over here and get the 3. If you have more dice and these are full, you can always use upper sections in there. Now this will have you go up on the House of the Dead track. So this is the House of the Dead track. This is where you take your houses from, and they uncover different points, and these are multipliers that you have to be aware of, and they actually get lower as you go. So the more houses are built, the point multiplier gets lower and lower. So you're going to look at the latest uncovered spot, and that's going to be your multiplier. In the scoring phase is when you have the eclipses. But going up this House of the Dead track, you actually aren't going to get anything until you land on these discovery tiles, and you will get the discovery tiles as you go. And your position on here is a multiplier, and your position on the building track is going to be a multiplier at the end of each eclipse. So this building track is the only track in the entire game that resets. So you're basically taking this number and multiplying it by the house uncovered for both of those. So this track here, you're going to be building a lot. Just know that it will reset every eclipse. There's a bunch of other stuff in this game, but there's actually 2 other locations I wanted to show you real briefly because they're interesting. If you go into this decorator tile area here, so in this decorator tile area, you will come here. It's supposed to be flipped over. And depending on how many dice you have, you can place a decorator tile down. When you place a decorator tile down, you're going to look at this little arrow here. Whichever way that arrow points is the way that it has to sit on the track. And then if you look at the bigger board here, you're going to place it on the temple. Now you can always place it in any of these areas here, and you can place it up the track. So just as an example, the areas have to be completely completed where it's going to go. So I could place the decorator tile. It could go here, here, or here, but it can only go up in this top level if the other ones are finished. Once I place the decorator tile in there, I'm going to get points. If I match a color on here, I'm going to go up that track on the temple track over here. That's going to be decorator tiles. The last place I'm going to show you is basically going to be the palace, and it's a unique spot. All right, so this is the palace. It doesn't actually have a lot of things that you can do on here. You can gain your cocoa, but there's no like area where you're going to gain anything other than locking your die. So if you lock a die here, you'll get whatever it says under there, and then if you do that, you could get this discovery tile if you wanted to. That's basically the palace. It's basically only locking dice location. And that, in a gist, is basically Teotihuacan. I didn't go over all the rules. I just showed you some spots and gave you a general idea of how the game plays and what the game is. So let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll go ahead and give you my final thoughts on Teotihuacan. So that was just a brief overview of how the game flows. It's not really rules, but I just wanted to show you like all the different neat things that are on the board and things that you can do throughout the game. The real thing that makes the replayability of this game so high is the fact that the board is modular, where you can actually use those cardboard pieces to place over the different locations that I showed you on the board and really randomize it. So that makes every game different and unique. And some of them have some different things on it too, which is really cool. So I do highly recommend that you don't put those on to start and you just learn to play the game with what's printed on the board. And then once everyone becomes comfortable with it, of course, use those modular board pieces to make a unique experience for the game. There are so many different ways of getting points in this game. There's so many different ways of optimizing your plays that, and there's another cool thing too, that when you have someone doing, or you have a group of people doing the same thing, you can gain more benefits from it. You can get more cocoa, you can do more things, but you could also branch out to try to push ahead of the pack. There's just so many different things that you can do in the game itself that make it amazing. I mean, it's all, and for a Euro that they're generally themeless and just have a theme slapped on, this really feels like the mechanics fit the game. Every time I go to a spot, it gives me the feeling that, like, yeah, I'm getting materials, or yeah, I'm going to be going ahead and building portions of the temple and getting the glory from that, or I'm going to be sending out people to be worshiping so I can get more favor from the gods throughout the game. Really, really well done game. And most of the time, the art's very muted for this. I really like how they handled it, where it really looked like the art belonged, but it was still dynamic and nice. Just overall, really, really good. Really good component quality. If you like worker placement games, I would highly, highly, highly recommend checking out this game. You'll probably love it. There's just so many cool things, and I really like the ascension mechanism in the game, where your die gets to that level 6, you get to get a bonus, you can get your 4th die, and you just can continue on. It also helps from having people having that super powered worker that you can get the huge benefits in each location. When you go there, you might have to upgrade your worker, which is nice too, because the ascension, but also because when you go to a location, your lowest die is the level that you're using, so it also helps push you to that. So a lot of thought went into this game. Wonderful, wonderful game. It may even make my top 10. Just love it. Can't highly recommend it enough. And that's Teotihuacan, City of the Gods. Thank you for watching.